Launched in 1978, just 1 year after the Peugeot 305, the Renault 18 is of the same kind. Serious and without extravagance, it comes to replace the R12 at the heart of the range, aimed at a probably more conservative clientele, and leaves the eccentricities to Citroën to position itself against the Lion brand manufacturer. With the 18, Renault not only wants to replace the 12, but also to strengthen its international positions. The result is a serious, diligent, and very consensual car, leaving all the fun exclusively to its Fuego derivative. Today, let's take another look at a car that's more interesting than it seems. Launched in June 1970, the 134 program is crucial for Renault. In an increasingly international market, family sedans with trunks are a safe bet on every continent. And the Renault 12, just launched in 1969, proves it. So, the brand is already preparing its replacement well in advance in order to offer the best possible product when the time comes. But for now, it's only about thinking about the design. In a way, the technical question has already been settled. The base of the Renault Douze is solid, easy to industrialize, and relatively modern. This will allow for a development phase later on that is quite short for the time, only 18 months. For the style of Project 134, the early 70s will be an exploratory phase. Thus, Renault will not hesitate to have the brand new design studio of the coach builder, Eliès, led by Yves Dubernard, work on it. However, the proposals from the coach builder are closer to a facelift of the 12 than to a truly new model. So it is Renault and Gaston Juchet's team who will take charge of the project. Little by little, Juchet moves towards a rounder design, but also one that is more prestigious than that of the 12. With the arrival of the Renault 20 in 1975 and the Renault 14 in 1976, the commercial niche of the future 18 is more limited in France, at least. Indeed, while the Renault 18 has a role to play within the French lineup, it is also, and above all, a product intended for export. This explains the choice of a very conventional body style, while the rest of the lineup, from the R5 to the R30, has definitely turned towards a hatchback profile. Similarly, the technical choices are proven ones. Front-wheel drive with a longitudinal engine, Cleon cast iron and Cleon aluminum, independent front wheel but rigid rear axle, disc brakes at the front, drum brakes at the rear, classic features. The style is frozen between late 1974 for the exterior and mid-1975 for the interior. Meanwhile, technical development begins for a planned launch in 1978. Starting from the same base and the same concept, the Renault 18 turns out to be quite different from the 12, visually. Slightly longer by 8 centimeters and also wider by 8 centimeters and naturally a bit more spacious, it also looks much more modern. And frankly, that's a good thing. The car's more pronounced curves align with current trends, improving its aerodynamics. Finally, it's sturdy enough to tackle playgrounds beyond Europe. On the old continent, the R18 has been on sale since April 1978. It faces a recent Peugeot 305, launched the previous year, but an aging Citroën GS, which was launched earlier in 1970, which is about to undergo a major redesign to become the General Services Administration. At Simca, which will become Talbot the following year, the competition is interesting. 1307, 1308, but the future is very uncertain. The 18, therefore, faces the 305 in a duel. For this, it has the TL and GTL as entry-level models with the Cleon Fonte 1.4-liter engine and 64 horsepower, and the TS and GTS as the top-of-the-line models, with the Cleon Alu 1.6-liter engine and 79 horsepower. At that time, these power levels seemed more than sufficient for this market segment. The 305 Sport Rally at Peugeot tops out at 74 horsepower before more sporty versions were added in the 80s. For now, room also has to be left for the Renault 20, which is positioned a notch above. The 18 fulfilled its promise in its very first year. With 154,917 cars produced in 1978, the new Renault is right behind the 305 by just 15,000 units. It's safe to say that 1979 is already a triumph, with 366,811 units coming off the production lines. A leap forward. no doubt accentuated by the release of a station wagon version and the brand's growing presence in major export markets. Completely knockdown production specifically involves deliveries of ready-to-assemble kits or partially integrated kits. It started as early as 1978 in Spain and Argentina, then in Mexico in 1979. Besides Latin America, the R18 will also be produced in Morocco, Ivory Coast, Australia, and Slovenia. It was finally launched in the United States in 1980, truly making it an international car. In 1980, the Renault 18's lineup underwent significant changes. In March, its derivative, Fuego, came to strengthen the lineup in a very original way. No longer hesitating to step on its sister's toes, Renault 20 the 18 offers in July a diesel version equipped with the same engine from Ouvrain, with 2,068 cubic centimeters and 67 horsepower. In September, it's the turbo's turn to make its appearance with a 1.6 and 110 horsepower. A surprising choice when the Fuego simultaneously gets a 2-liter naturally aspirated engine with equal power. In any case, even if the turbo remains a niche in sales, it offers the dynamism that the Renault 18 had been lacking until then, and sets it apart from its French competitors. Finally, these new features allow Renault to keep its leadership and maintain the production of its model at around 350,000 units per year for 3 consecutive years. Well-organized, meeting the demands of both export and the French market, the 18 range doesn't change until 1984 except for an upgrade to the suspension in 1983. However, Renault's family car has to face new competition. Indeed, the 305 receives a welcome facelift that gives it a new lease on life. But the danger doesn't come from it. In 1982, Citroën finally replaced its aging General Services Administration with a sparkling and explosive BX designed by Burton. The 18 is holding on, but its sales are steadily declining. Since 1981, the Renault 9 has been taking customers from the lower segment. The brand only sold 289,482 units in 82 and 236,138 in 1983. In January 1983, the 4.4 version of the R18 wagon is introduced and marketed in March, but remains limited in availability. Renault responded in 1984 by presenting an R18, slightly restyled and modernized in March. Meanwhile, the 2-liter 88-horsepower turbo diesel version is introduced in January, and the Renault 20 is phased out, giving it a bit of fresh air. But time does its work, while the BX, whose beginnings were timid because of its surprising design, starts to take off. Renault now has to resort to the methods initiated by Citroën back in the 70s, the limited editions that will accompany the R18 until the end of its life. But all good things must come to an end. In this transitional period between the 70s and 80s, the Renault 18 played its role perfectly, brilliantly handling the competition in France and more than satisfying customers in Spain and South America. However, Renault entered a new era with the Renault 25 and the Super 5 in 1984. Ford launched the replacement for its family car in March 1986, not waiting for a drop in sales. The 18 was then withdrawn from the market but continued its career abroad, especially in Argentina, where it remained the flagship of the range, until November 1993. Despite real success in France, it made less of an impression than the Renault 12 for older people, or the Renault 21 for the younger generation. Stuck between two eras, it keeps, despite its turbo version, a very sedate image, which it actually shares with its rival, likely due to choice, design, market, and timing. 305. And you, do you have any memories with the Renault 18? Let me know in the comments. Thank you all for watching this new video. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and of course, subscribe so you don't miss any of the upcoming videos.